Sam, if you could just start by telling us who you are. What's your name, where are you from, and what do you do?
My name is Sam Kirk. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I do fine art and muralist. I'm born and raised south side of Chicago. Right now I'm living in Little Village and my studio is here in Pilsen.
Can you tell us more about your training as an artist, how you came to be a working artist?
Yeah, so I've been an artist since I was a kid. As long as I can remember, I've been drawing, but I never really planned to be a professional artist. Initially, I studied marketing and architecture, so I worked in advertising for about 10 years, and in 2010, I quit that career and started my own business, and I've been running my art practice for 9 years. So it kind of happened organically. Initially I stopped painting for several years to really focus on my career, but then once I picked it back up again, it was mostly as, you know, like a hobby, stress reliever, something to do to use my creative talent in a different way. And it organically just kind of started building up again. So I was showing in the agency that I worked at, which was the largest agency in Chicago at the time, and that went really well. A lot of my coworkers liked my paintings, so I was getting commissions. And then some of the executives from the agency bought some of my work. So in turn, you know, my paintings are in their offices, then big clients come in and ask who painted that, just kind of like a domino effect. And then I started doing shows in 2009, and those shows went really well. And in 2010, I was named one of the 12 artists to watch for Chicago Artist Month, and that just kind of was a big spin-off into a lot of other commissions. So I was asked to design a mansion from the ground up for a previous client in 2010, and at the same time I was asked to design 15 very large-scale paintings for a really big music venue in the suburbs. And those two projects were enough for me to leave my advertising career and start my own business. And here we are, 9 years later.
That's a bold move, giving up corporate life for the life of a working artist. What advice do you have for young people who are watching this who might be tempted to do the same thing?
I'd really say make sure that it's really what you want to do. Art, I mean, any business really isn't something that you just want to toy with and like quit your day job to see if you like it. I'd say start to get your feet wet, you know, get into the industry, start to, you know, make some moves and see if it's something that you really enjoy. As an artist, you spend a lot of time alone, so make sure you enjoy being with yourself. There's a lot of times by yourself. And then also make sure you have, you know, a little bit of funds, some funds to pay your bills, to sustain yourself while you're starting to build in those first 2 years. Because the first 2 years are the hardest. It's a lot of, you know, building up portfolio, letting people know who you are, getting clients to trust you, and ultimately trying to get paid work. So if you can, build up your portfolio before you leave your job so that you have something to present when you're ready to be out on your own. But if you're, you know, ready to do it now, then just try to, you know, have some funds available, build a website, get your Instagram together, have your social media consistent. See, for me, it's different because I had an advertising background, so I think of all these things like second nature, you know. But
can you tell us about muralism? What drew you to that particular art form, making large-scale public art?
So I grew up in Chicago, and I was always a fan of graffiti, and really enjoyed watching a lot of the permission walls go up, or just seeing different graffiti as I would take the train. And I didn't get into graffiti because I was too much of a chicken. I didn't want to get arrested. But I got into murals because as an artist, a lot of my work is about social justice and culture and messages that really impact community. So I realized that I can put as much as I want into paintings and into galleries and museums, but that's really not going to reach the people that I want to communicate to. So I decided to get into murals in order to, you know, start to have that conversation with my work and really see what the reaction was from the community on the messages that I was putting out there. And I found that I enjoyed it. Initially it was really hard. It's a lot of labor, it's a lot of work. But then I started to really enjoy it because it allowed me to have more of a engagement and interaction with people, and allowed them and their feedback and, you know, that commentary, kind of like that unexpected critique from the community to direct what was in the piece and what was, you know, being told in the story that I was putting together.
One thing we're studying is why social justice and muralism go hand in hand. I think your work really exemplifies that. Why do you think murals tend towards social justice in the way that they do?
Well, I actually don't think I see as many murals as I'd like that have a social justice focus. There's a lot of murals that are just really beautiful to look at, and I think that's great, but I think within especially communities that are working class or communities of color where our stories aren't told, and there's a lot of misconception and there's a lot of things that are put out there in the media about us that don't give the full story, I think that's when our murals or murals around social justice and around community and culture are very important, because it's our opportunity to share who we are and what we're about and the voices of our people in a way that doesn't always get out there through other media.
Does an artist from an underrepresented background have a responsibility to do more, to include more social justice issues in their work?
I don't think it's necessarily a responsibility of an artist from a underrepresented background to include social justice in their work. I think as an artist, you choose what you want to create. I think if you're inclined to talk about social justice in your work and it's something that moves you and there's a passion behind it, then you definitely should. But I don't think we're required to do that. I think, especially right now, as artists of color, or as people of color, period, we're being used to educate people a lot when people really need to educate themselves. So I don't think we should feel like it's our responsibility. People should find it in themselves to learn some of this stuff on their own. And if we happen to be somebody that is passionate about it, then yeah, you can, you know, come chat with us, learn more, you know, view our work.
You said murals are a lot of work. What goes into making a mural for the uninitiated?
So, you know, making a mural really depends on who it's for, first and foremost. If it's for the community, then there's community conversations, or at least I feel there should be community conversations. As much as possible, try to find a way to have conversation with community. I think for me personally, one of the worst things I could do is go into a community, put up a mural, and never have a conversation with the people that live there before I do it. So if it's for community, I think you should definitely involve them in the content development. And if it's for a private client, you know, it's a whole different thing. If it's for a brand, even it still includes community. At least I do. I try to. But you're looking at their advertising campaign. You're looking at, you know, what's their goals and their messages of their marketing. And then for me, like this mural behind us was actually funded by a corporate brand. It was funded by Ultra Mobile. And most of the time, brands want you to come in and, you know, make everything their colors and make everything look like, oh, this is obviously an Ultra Mobile thing. It's orange and purple and all of that's everywhere. But I think as artists, it's our job to also make sure that we're not just putting up advertising for brands. So when it's a private client, you know, educating the client about why community should be involved and why this should really represent the community and they should fund it because it's for that reason. And then there's also like big public organizations or like city-funded murals, and that's, you know, a whole proposal process. So that's the beginning of it, but the actual execution of a mural is really the same across the board for all three. And it's, you know, understanding the building, understanding the surface type, being knowledgeable of the materials you have to use. If it's brick, what kind of primer, how much primer you're going to use, and also what equipment. For me, for brick or like cement buildings that have a lot of texture to them, I use a spray gun to do priming and most of my coating, which is tools that are used by construction workers. And you're starting to see a little bit more muralists do that now. But it's priming it, usually 2 coats of primer, and then there's the concept development of the piece, actually figuring out, you know, what the story is, what the piece is going to look like. Usually there's some approval process in it, and then physically coming out here and painting it. So, which for something like this, the one that's behind us, it's we used a 30-foot scissor lift, so it's understanding how to operate a scissor lift, and then also understanding what materials to use so that it lasts as long as possible.
Can you tell us about the piece that is behind us? If someone is a tourist or just passing by, what do you want them to know about this piece, Pilsen?
So Pilsen is a celebration of the community. You know, Pilsen's going through a lot of changes right now. It's been going through a lot of changes with gentrification for the last several years. And I find one of the main things that I love about this neighborhood are the people and the culture. And I think you see that most often in a lot of the street vendors that are here. I mean, you walk around the parks or to the train stations, especially in the summer, they're everywhere. And it makes what Pilsen feels like Pilsen, you know. You can smell the food in the air. And even though a mural can't necessarily capture that scent, I think if you, can you hear me okay? I think if you try to capture the people that represent the food and the culture of the food that's here in the mural, then you can get, you know, a little bit of that in the piece. But this piece is really meant to celebrate the people that are here, the people that, you know, came here as immigrants initially and built the culture of the community as what it is today, and then also some of the people that were born here and raised here and have added to that culture.
Sorry, I'm going to cover that again.